In this video, we're going to talk about how to find a rate of speed for different legs of a graph. And you can see with this graph, there are going to be 4 different legs. So we have this first leg, which is, which is this leg right here. And then we have a second leg, which is where our graph plateaus. And then the third leg, and our fourth leg that take us all the way back to the bottom part of the graph. For each leg, you can find the rate of speed by doing some simple calculations. Okay? So let's find the rate of speed for the first leg. So first off, we need to see how long or how far we went on this first leg. So this right here is our first leg, and you can see that we went, let me go straight across, that we went 130 miles because each individual line is worth 10. So if we count it all the way up, that would end up being 130 miles. So for this whole first leg of our trip, we went 130 miles. So I can use our equation that we've been using, which is r equals distance divided by time. And we can see that we went 130 miles. So r equals 130. Now, if I took this point all the way down and looked at how much time we spent 2 hours. We went 1 hour, 2 hours. So we're going to divide that by 2. So we know that our rate is 65 miles per hour for our first leg. Our second leg is this flat portion right here. Now, we know when our graph plateaus like that and it doesn't go anywhere, that our distance hasn't changed. So if we really wanted to, we could set up an equation, and for this part, we can do r equals, and we know our distance hasn't changed, so we've gone 0 miles. And if we look at the bottom at our time, it's spent, we take this all the way down, we can see that this time was spent 1, 2, 3 hours. And if we put 0 divided by 3 on our calculator, we would get r equals 0 miles per hour, which we already knew because we know when our graph is flat like that, that we're not going anywhere, that we're at a standstill. Okay? Looking at our third piece of this graph would be this little piece right here. Okay? And we start our trip at 130 miles. And we finish this leg of our trip right here, okay? And this piece of our graph ends, if I take this line straight across, ends at 110 miles. So that means that this entire piece is only 20 miles long, okay? So we know that little section, we went 20 miles, and we know that little section went from 5 to 6, and then hours 6 to 7. So we only went 2 hours. So we're going to divide that by 2. So our rate equals 10 miles per hour. Now I'm going to go over that section one more time. Okay? So now you can see that starting with this section right here, that this section started at 130 miles. And then we traveled this distance for this amount of time for the 2 hours. And when we finished this section right here, this section stopped at 110 miles. So to find the difference, we can say that this section is only 20 miles long. Okay? 20 divided by the 2 hours that it took us to get that far equals 10 miles per hour. Now looking at our last piece is our last leg of the trip. Okay, and it's from 110 miles. So we know that this started at 110 miles and we finished back here at 0. So this entire trip was 110 miles long. And we traveled 110 miles in 1, 2, 3 hours. I'm sorry, I gotta move this up. 2, 3 hours. So we did 110 miles in 3 hours. And when I put that in my calculator, 110 divided by 3 gives me 36.6 repeating. So I'm going to say 36.67 repeating miles per hour. Alright, so let's look at this one more time. Move this graph down a little bit. Once again, we can see that we had to decide how many legs there were to this graph. And you can tell that there were legs by when the graph breaks. So for instance, right here, right there, that's our next one. And then our graph ends over here. So this entire piece is our first leg. And during this entire leg right here, we went 130 miles. Because you can see this is where the graph stops at this line. So we went 130 miles. And we did that. And we'll bring that down here. And we did that in 2 hours. So that's how we found that first rate of speed. Our second piece was this flat line right here. And we know that our distance does not change when we have a flat line. So up top, we put a 0. And this flat line lasted for 3 hours, so divided by 3. 0 divided by 3 is 0 miles per hour. Again, completely makes sense because we're not going anywhere right here, okay? Our third leg started here at 130 miles. And we drove or biked or walked for 2 hours. And in that 2 hours, we went 20 miles because we can see that this leg stopped at 110 miles, okay? So therefore, that's how we got the 20. 20 divided by the 2 hours, that's how long this line segment lasted, gave us 10 miles per hour. And then finally, our last piece of the graph starts here at 110 miles and takes us all the way home. So this entire piece is 110 miles long. And it took us from here to here 3 hours. So I did 110 miles divided by 3 hours, which gave me 36.67 miles per hour. So this is nothing different than what we've been doing, but now we're just doing the rate, we're finding our rate of speed multiple times. So your trickiest parts are going to be the plateaus and these downward pieces where you have to do a little subtraction to find out how long this piece actually is. Okay? So watch this video. This video should definitely help you with your homework tonight.